welcome to my channel. Well, if you're like me, in that you've got a lot of batteries, you don't always know the status of the batteries that you've got. And for the longest time I used something like this. It's just a little Radio Shack thing. Pretty versatile. At AAA here, CD or AA here. You put the batteries in there. It'll also test a 9-volt down here. But all it gives you is good or bad. Good or bad. So, and these don't work on lithium ions and stuff like that. You know, it's just like for regular conventional batteries. So I wanted something a little bit better. Now I have a multimeter. The problem with the multimeter is it's just reading the voltage without any load on the battery. And if you know this from like car batteries and stuff like that, a battery can read a certain voltage, and as soon as you put any load on it, it'll start dropping. It'll drop its voltage. So a voltmeter may give you an indication that the battery is full, when in reality it's not. As soon as you put a little bit of a load on it, it goes out. Alright, so what this one does is it takes 2 alkaline batteries. It says don't use rechargeable batteries in its manual. But it sits here and it gives you all the different ranges and types of batteries that it can work on. Now this 12 volt is just alkaline remote control batteries. It's not for a lead acid type battery. It tests the battery's internal resistance. This is something that's pretty good. And then it tests its battery capacity and percentage. Now, it also reads the voltage. It has a rotary dial. And so let's set it to 3.7 lithium ion. When it first comes on, this little scale comes up like that. And then it sets there. So your indicator is your capacity is going to be like a speed thing over here. This is going to read your volts, and this is going to read in megohms. Megohms is 1 million ohms of resistance. Alright, so let's take the ones that we know are the fake batteries. It also says in here don't test fake batteries. It's not, you know, for fake batteries, because mainly fake batteries are giving you the wrong indicator. Alright, let's get this up here where we can see the scale a little bit better. Now, it comes with these little spring-loaded flat posts here. So you put a negative on a negative. You don't have to compress it all the way down, but I mean, it's just there to make sure you get good contact on the post. And then a positive. And so it says it's 4.05 volts and 122 megohms. And it's at about 90% capacity. Now, I can tell you right now that this is not 90% of 3,000 milliamps. Because we know this thing only holds like 100 and something milliamps. So the only thing that this is really going to be able to tell you as far as like identifying a funky battery might be that internal ohm resistance there. So let's take a good one that we know is a good battery, Workhorse. Again, we put it down here. This is a little bit easier to do if you've ever used a multimeter that has a needle point on it. And we get this one over here. It's reading 100% and 27 megohms, 4.19 volts. So this one's reading 100 and something, you know, and this one's reading 100 less, 100 megohms less. So let's try. Oh, and the thing about these battery holders right here that I like. Oh, sorry, bumping around. I don't have to take them out to test them, you know. It gives me access to the leads right here. So it says this one right here is at 3.88 volts. I was hitting the edge of the, I wasn't centered on it. Sorry, I'm trying to hold 4 batteries at once while doing this test. It's easier said than done. Again, only 26 megohms. Let's check an Olight battery. Even though it's proprietary, this one is not a proprietary one. It's one of those where it just has a positive, it just has a negative. But even the proprietary ones still have a negative back here that you can, you know, test on. So that's no issue for testing. All right, let me put it on there. 4.19 volts, 34 megohms, and 100%. So from just testing those 18650s, we can tell that this guy's got high internal resistance compared to the other ones, and it doesn't weigh much. I mean, you know, that's one of the giveaways. Here's a Sofran 21700 battery. Get the scale back here where we can see it. 4.21 volts, 8 megohms. So that, you know, is kind of an indicator. I mean, that might be one way you can look at it and say, hey, this battery's kind of wacky. You know, because, yeah, it's reading 4.05 volts. It says it's at, I wish this thing would focus down here, 90%. Just trying to read these test leads. It says it's at 90%, but 114 megohms. So I'm not necessarily getting it to identify bad 18650 batteries. It's things like this. The Ace Beam Pokemon, you know, he doesn't have Endural in it. So you can't just do a voltage check with the light. So when you look at it, you don't know what capacity this thing is at. So with this one, we can sit here and it's still not 100% easy to do this. It says it's at 4.03 volts, 55 megohms, and 90% capacity. If you were to put this on a charger, it'd just start blinking. It'd say, yeah, I need a charge. So what I'm trying to avoid is I don't want to overcharge batteries. I don't want to charge them when they don't need a charge. For me, if it's a lithium and it's getting down to like 75 or 70% or something, then I'll probably charge it. But it doesn't really need it unless you're going to depend on that thing, you know, a lot. So that's what I find useful. I'm the type of person that I want more information than good or replace, you know? All right, so let's go to 9-volt battery right here. And it doesn't matter, alkaline, nickel metal, lithium. It's just 9 volt. So if you don't know the terminals, you can just look here, negative, positive. Negative is black, positive is red. If you reverse the leads on this, it'll just say error. So see, this one says it's at 40%, 3.7 volts, 16 ohms, not megohms in this case, 16 ohms. So it's at pretty low capacity. Yeah, I mean, you could use it. This one was actually in a multimeter. Not this one, but my other multimeter. So it's good. It's good when you've got a bunch of batteries and you're sitting there and you're like, huh. Now, in this case, I'd have to switch the gauge, you know, because the Amazons right here, these are 1.2 volts. And this guy is a NiCad, also at 1.2 volts. So I'd have to go on this scale for 1.2 volts. When I switch over to the alkalines or regular carbon type batteries, I'd have to be on this scale. So what they're doing really with this scale is they're computing, calculating for you. Okay, if something is 1.45 volts, this is 100% capacity and this is 0. Now this dial also will time out after a minute, and you can reactivate it just by testing something. Well, in this case, we'll go with the 9-volt guy. We'll put this guy here, and this guy here, and our meter comes back on. Now see, and this time it's reading 6.82 volts. So it depends on how, where you're putting it, how you're putting it in there. 6.1. It might be losing capacity as we're testing it, Now it's down to 10%. You saw earlier, it was at 40%. Negative. Sorry, all this bumping. Stop your bumping. Positive. Yeah, so this is a throwaway battery. You probably got a lot of these sitting in your drawers or shelves and stuff, And if they're throwaway, then you should throw them away. All right, now these are the lithium ions. So I set it to the lithium ion scale, and I don't have to pull the batteries out. Like I said, if I was using something like this, I'd have to pull the batteries out. So again, I don't have any affiliations with any of these companies or anything. So if I say I like something, it's just because I like something. And you don't have to factor in, I'm getting paid to tell you that. Not that that would influence me that much. All right, 4.18 volts, 100%. See, a lot of times these are sitting here and I go like, should I charge these or not? You're just looking at them, you can't really tell. But this one right here says, nope, everybody's charged. Don't even stick them in a charge. Now this guy's just a little bit, but it's not worth it to charge them up. So that's the main use I've got for this thing. It's not that expensive. It was like $20-something. Here's the user manual. LCD display. It gives you, the list of the functions and everything, and then all the batteries that it's compatible with. To test the battery voltage, power, percent, test the battery accurate to 2 decimal places. It tests the capacity. There's some typos and stuff like that here. When internal resistance test is more than 999 megohms into gear, internal resistance of unlimited size. So basically it's saying if you get beyond that, if you get beyond 999, it's just going to show bank. It's just going to show the ohm symbol. It's just like it's got maximum resistance. It's a bad battery, basically. They're talking about your pins, which are these things. It has an LCD display. This power has low power consumption and is power saving. Open the back cover and put 2 alkaline batteries in. Operate the gear type knob. So, it just goes like this. It's in a dormant state. It'll start up by hitting, a battery. And if you want to avoid, draining the battery and everything, just leave it in the off position. And it basically says don't make It has some warnings here, don't use rechargeable batteries to run the tester. Test one battery at a time. The battery should contact well, so you want to make good contact on it. Don't disassemble the charger. If you don't use it for a long time, take the batteries out. Put in new alkaline batteries to run the test in to ensure accuracy. Children are required to use the charger under supervision of adult. I don't know how they're going to hurt themselves, but you are dealing with electricity. But yeah, so yeah, this thing's useful for me. Mainly because a lot of times I don't need to charge batteries, but because I can, I do. And like I said, I've got a crap ton of batteries, and you run into a lot of these that are just sitting there and you're like, is this any good or not? And this one I've already tested, but we'll just do it one more time just to go over here. So in this case, 1.5 volt. If you ever wonder, it should tell you on the battery what it is. This is high energy, and it's not telling you what it is. Usually they give you voltage and everything. There it is. There it is. 1.5 volt alkaline. This is fine print here. Type C battery. All right. So this thing doesn't care whether it's C or D or A or whatever. So we go up here. We make good contact with the base. We make good contact here. 1.53 volts. 466 megohms. So this is a good battery. Don't need to throw it away. That's all I need to know. This thing would have told me too that this little red tester here, it does the same thing. Put it in there, pull it down, green light. Your battery is good. For a lot of people, that's all you need. You need, of course, Radio Shack's not in business anymore, and I doubt if you can get this thing, because I've had that one for a long time. But there you go. That's just another option for those of you that are into stuff. I'll find this useful and helpful, and you may also. Anyways, thank you for watching, and have a nice day.